I tell you, it's this guy, he's something else. He's made a terrible mistake. But of course, before I get into that, I want to talk about the vlog, you know, the off-grid stuff like I'm supposed to. A lot of people have been complimenting me on my solar panel videos. As a matter of fact, usually my solar panel videos do very poorly. I mean, just as bad as you can imagine. Firewood videos, and let's say around September, do really well. But solar panels, I've never had any luck with them. But yesterday or day before yesterday, I talked about moving these solar panels from down here up to here, and it's one of the better videos I've had in probably 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't know, something's different. Maybe consistency, I don't know what it is. So as you know, I made a video a couple days ago where I was telling you where I moved the solar panels, I don't know, 10 feet maybe at the most. So you can see where these tall weeds are here, and I just moved them up to here, put them on a tarp. There's Skitty. She's wanting to know what I'm doing. Usually she stays at the house, but if I come down here, she's got to figure out what I'm doing. The reason they were down here is, as I showed in that video the other day, the sun, when we first got here, was blocked by trees that were over here. Now I've cut all these trees down. I realize it's grown up again, but you can see there's plenty of potential sun to come down at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night in the summertime. And then we have the trees over here. So I was trying to find a medium area that would get sun most of the day. But I wasn't getting any sun here until about 11 o'clock because of those trees. This is the east, this is where the sun rises. So these trees would block the sun until 11 o'clock. Well, by that time, during the summer, it's so stinking hot that as soon as the sun hits the panels, we're automatically losing efficiency. As I've said in previous videos, when the temperature gets above 78 degrees, you start losing efficiency on your solar panels. I believe it's 0.5% for every degree Celsius in temperature. She's inspecting my work. She's gonna mark it to make sure it's done right. That's funny. Well, 2 or 3 days ago, I decided to move them up here because the sun in this area up here starts shining about 9:30ish. That's a good 1.5 to 2 hours more sunlight on the solar panels when it's cooler out. Now, one of the big problems with me having moved them up here before is the camper's in the way. The old truck camper, this is where the batteries are stored, the charge controller, and the inverter. Well, Carolyn's building a shed and she's making progress on it. She's getting frustrated with it, but she's not giving up. I'm proud of her. She said she wants to do this herself, so I haven't interfered unless she asks for help. So she wants to move the batteries and all that equipment into this shed, and then we'll tear down the old truck camper. The shed will go behind the solar panels, which is a better idea. Now, of course, when we put the truck here, we weren't really thinking about where the sun was and all that. It was muddy, so we came down here with the truck, with the camper on the back of it, backed up as far as we could in a spot that had the fewest weeds because it was all overgrown, and took it off the truck, and it sat there ever since. Well, then, you know, solar panels, where are you going to put those? So originally I put them right here where they were, but anytime I moved them all over the place several times, trying to figure out the best place to put them. But over here, if I put them up over here, that cedar tree was in the way, the walnut tree, all this stuff was in the way in early spring when we first came down here. So now we got it all worked out. Put the shed behind the solar panels, get rid of this old truck camper, and in the winter, the sun won't be blocked by the truck camper. That's what I'm trying to say, is in the wintertime it's blocked. That's why I never brought them up here. I don't know what else I could have done to get a bit more sun. But the thing is I came down here at 9:30 and I tested every panel. I flipped them all upside down since the sun was up, and I brought them back up, checked each one to make sure they were all producing electricity. Now, these solar panels produce 5 point some odd amps. I think it's 5.6 amps each. So that's 50.6 with 10 of them. So I flipped one up at a time, and all but one was producing 5 point something. Now, when I say 5.6, I would imagine that is with a lot of consistency and no clouds in the sky and, you know, birds flying over, whatever. Because when you're actually testing them, it'll say 5.6, 5.4, 5.3, 5.1, 5.5. So it's all over the place, and it flashes quite quickly. So I was happy to just see 5. That means the solar panels are producing close to, at least, what they're supposed to be producing. Now, the one that didn't produce, it only produced 4 point something. I think it was 4.8, was the broken one. A gust of wind turned this one over just recently and cracked the outer glass. So you had the fragile blue panels, and then above the blue panels, you have this piece of glass. I thought it was supposed to be plexiglass, but I guess it's glass. And it shattered it. I might take the glass off. I'm thinking maybe I'll take the glass off, but then there's no protection. And if something hits it then, we're just breaking the panels. That one is almost producing what I need. And these solar panels are only $80 a piece, so if I really wanted to, I could replace it or just add to it. There's no reason to take it out of the system. It's producing quite a few amps, actually. Now, I don't know if you're gonna be able to pick this up on the camera, but you'll see here, maybe, little cracks. I do believe that is cracked blue panel. Cracked solar. I made a tragic mistake when I first came down here. We were trying to run the air conditioner off these things. And when it gets hot, you lose efficiencies. And so you're trying to run it 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's, you know, 100 degrees outside, and the panels are losing voltage. They're supposed to be producing, say, 20 volts. This is a 12-volt system, but they produce 20 volts. It's a lot of explanation, but what it is your charge controller converts extra volts into amps. When you're charging your batteries, it only uses the volts it needs and then pushes the rest in there with amps. It's a pretty neat system how that works. Well, when it's hot, you lose those volts. So you're not producing any extra amps, and you're not getting enough volts to actually push energy into the battery. It was frustrating. So what I did was I was cooling them off with water. Well, I learned shortly after I did that a few times that it can crack the panel. And you'll start to lose efficiencies on your panels when that happens. So I just assumed I was losing efficiency. Well, today, when I tested them, I flipped them all upside down and tested each one. And like I said, I was getting 5 amps each. So that means, except for that one that's all busted up. So that means even though they're cracked, they're still at full efficiency. I am very relieved about that. That's just really good news. So they were here for an extra 2 hours. So sun came up at 9:30. I had them all flipped over for about a half hour. So they weren't even producing a lot of electric until 10 o'clock. Well, at 11:30, which is about the time the solar panels were getting full sun down there, the batteries were charged. That is fantastic. I charged the batteries in 2 hours. Now what's interesting is when I hook the battery charger up, that's 25 amps on the battery charger. It takes 4 hours to charge the batteries. So with this producing 40 amps, that's what I was getting this morning, was 40 amps. And the reason I was getting 40 amps, that's a whole different explanation, is the charge controller limits the amount of amps that goes into the batteries based on its needs. As soon as the sun popped up over the trees, the batteries shot up pretty quickly. So as the batteries are coming up on voltage, the amperage is coming down on the charge controller, restricting how many amps are coming in from the solar panel. So it was at 40 amps instead of the 51, 52 amps, whatever it should be. So this is just really good news. And the reason this is good news is Carolyn's son is using the air conditioner in the camper. We've said this before. He has to have the air conditioner in there. It gets boiling hot. It's 5 to 10 degrees hotter in the camper than it is in our house. Now in the camper, it sits out there in the middle of the sun. There is no protection from the sun, whereas our tiny house has those trees covering it. So we've got to have the air conditioner there. So this is a huge, so what that means is now that the batteries are charged at 11 a.m., that's when he's going to want to kick on the air conditioner at 11, 12 o'clock. I don't have to worry about trying to charge the batteries. The other day when the solar panels were down there, he kicked on the air conditioner about 11 o'clock. And when he shut it off at 3, the batteries weren't charged. The solar panels were working too hard trying to charge the batteries and run the air conditioner. And the air conditioner, you know, it shuts off, it cycles, turns on, turns off. It's so hot in there, it would shut off, but only for 2 or 3 minutes. During those 2 or 3 minutes, the batteries are trying to charge. Now, the other thing is, it was kind of a partly cloudy day. Unlike today, today's an absolute gorgeous day. On a partly cloudy day, you're gonna lose some amperage on your solar panels. With the batteries now being charged by the time he kicks it on, I don't have to worry about charging the batteries. Even on a partly cloudy day, if there's enough sun to run the air conditioner, we'll never run off the batteries. Now, the other issue is when it gets hot, like it did when we were running it in the truck camper, when we ran the air conditioner in the truck camper, when we start to lose efficiencies from the heat. So I brought out my little laser thermometer, and I'm gonna measure the temperature of the ground right here. So the ground says, I don't know if you can read that, what, 94 degrees? It's not that hot out, but that's how hot the ground is. So I'm gonna measure the temperature of the solar panels, and now we see 133 degrees. So it gets quite hot. Now, the other mistake I made, and I don't know if it's a mistake, I didn't have a white tarp, is I would have preferred to use a white tarp to lay these on, because that blue tarp is going to absorb heat. And so I'm going to measure the heat of the tarp, and it's 113 degrees. So that's nearly 10 degrees hotter than the green grass. Now the temperature here, like I said, is like 94. So I'm going to take a little measurement in the shade. I said 94, I meant 74. Yep, right here it's 68 degrees. So when the sun's beating down on things, it makes things much hotter. And so when the temperature outside is 100 degrees, so when this shaded spot is 100 degrees, these solar panels are going to really suffer. What happens is, as I probably already said, but I'm going to say it again, is the voltage drops on your solar panels. So instead of producing 20 volts, let's say you're producing 16 or 15 volts. That's a massive drop. And so your charge controller is no longer converting volts into amps. So the only thing you're running is amps. And you're gonna, I saw it every time. That's why I put water on the solar panels. You're gonna see a drop in efficiencies. It's gonna struggle to run that air conditioner. So I have a solution that I just came up with today. It will require some gasoline. Now people are gonna say, oh, you don't wanna run generators when you're off grid. Yes, you do. And the reason is because yesterday it was totally cloudy, completely cloud covered. Rained most day. I was getting 6 amps. From a system that is capable of producing 50 amps, I was getting 6 and very little voltage. So my battery charger, the car battery charger that I hook up to the generator, produces 25 amps, and it takes 4 hours for the battery charger to charge my batteries. So at 6 amps, it would have taken 4 times as long to charge those batteries. Instead of 1,000 watts, I would need 4,000 watts of solar panels, which you could do. I mean, yeah, somebody's gonna say, well, just do it. Yeah, you could do it, but I don't see the purpose of that. I don't know if the cost would ever balance out running a little bitty generator. This little generator runs 11 hours on like 3/4 of a tank of gas. So it runs forever on gas. I don't fill these tanks up but maybe once every couple months. Now, the thing is Carolyn's son realizes he's gonna have to pay for gasoline if he wants the air conditioner. So on days that I can't get enough energy out of the solar panels, he knows he's gonna have to buy gas to make up the difference. But I'm trying to figure out how to minimize his cost. Of course, I could just turn the battery charger on full amperage. What happens when I do that though, is the charge controller senses, oh, the batteries have enough electricity. I don't need to do anything. So it shuts off the solar panels. That means everything is running off the generator when I'm charging the batteries, because I turn the AC on, he runs off the inverter, and so the generator is basically feeding electricity into the batteries to run his air conditioner. And I have 2 battery chargers. So when it's cloudy, I can run one at 25 amps and the other one at 10 amps. It gives me 35 amps. Which is still less than what the solar panels can produce. I found a solution. I want the solar panels to do the bulk of the work, so we're using less gas. So what I'll do to make up the voltage, the battery charger will produce enough volts to charge the batteries, even if the solar panels are not. Even if I have one solar panel, let's say all these solar panels are only producing 12 volts, but I have one solar panel producing 20 volts. The system is going to sense the 20 volts. It's going to say this is a 20 volt system. I had a windmill, basically a hybrid system. I had a solar panel windmill system. And the windmill never produced enough volts to do anything with, but it produced a lot of amps when it spun. Conversely, the solar panels produced a lot of volts, but very little amps. So together they work very well. So that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn the generator on. I'll turn the battery charger on. Instead of running 25 or 35 amps, I'll run 2 amps on the battery charger because I don't need the battery charger to do anything except increase the voltage which the solar panel is losing from the hot sun. So that means the generator would not have to work very hard at all. It will run 11 hours on 3/4 of a tank of gas, not 3/4 tank, 3/4 of a gallon of gas. So you're not even using a gallon of gas every 11 hours, and he's only running the air conditioner 3 or 4 hours a day, which is better than the last time we ran the air conditioner off the generator. It only lasted for about 4 hours because it was just running full blast. So I was pretty much an idiot not having moved these solar panels sooner. I have an excuse. The camper was in the way, admittedly, and we didn't have anything to put the batteries into. But now all this is coming together. This is a much better solution, having it higher up here, having these trees cut down. I guess it just took time to get to this position, but I feel really stupid not having moved these sooner. So if you'll click this up next box, take the video where I was showing you the clouds and the explanation of the move and the whole thing. So if I can inspire you to keep improving your situation when you live in your dreams. Thanks for watching.